2026 anime winter season is probably going to go down as, I would say, the best season of anime that I've probably ever watched, or at least kind of try to keep track with, because there is so much good stuff coming out, and it's not a case of like, oh, it's an abundance of stuff, so it kind of automatically puts it up there. It's generally some of the best shows just going out in the last couple years, especially with a combined fact of you have a lot of shows that's like kind of peaking, where like they're either entering their climax or they're entering like one of the more popular or bigger arcs, and there are some relatively new, maybe from an IP that we do know, but it's from a different timeline, different world, or just something entirely new that no one really knew about until this year. It's been pretty positive when it comes to the reviews and some of the feedback that it's been getting from the watchers. Before we get into the actual list, I do want to get to some that I'm probably not going to get to at any time soon, just because I don't like to watch too many shows at once, because then I start mixing up characters, I start forgetting plot lines, so I kind of keep a limit on how much I really want to take in. But some of these shows are pretty popular, so just wanted to throw these out there in case some aren't sure if they're actually coming out now or if they're just, coming out later. But obviously Fear is probably the biggest one that I'm not going to get to anytime soon, just because I got to rewatch season 1 because I forgot a lot of it. And then I wasn't exactly in love with the series, but I didn't hate it. It was just a case of I might have to rewatch it just to see if I'm really interested in the story. Because after like the 5th or 6th episode, I don't know, I kind of was like in tune, but wasn't in tune with the story. It's kind of weird how I get with some shows like that. But I did love the world and the premise of it, so I started to get back into it eventually. And I think other than Free Aaron, the other big one for me especially is JoJo Part 6. Now the reason this is kind of in the list but not really is because even though this does classify as a winter season anime, it's the fact that it comes out pretty much at the tail end or near the end of March, and it's going to bleed into the spring. So I think it's really going to be a spring anime more so than a winter anime, especially since this is going to take up at least, I would say for part 7, it's probably going to take about maybe around 38 to 45 episodes to complete. And this is my favorite JoJo part ever. I don't know if that's ever going to change, but I cannot wait for the adaptation of it. I'm looking forward to Johnny Joestar, Gyro, Diego, and of course Funny Valentine, who some say is the best JoJo antagonist, which is up there in my top 3. I don't know if he's my exact favorite, but I feel like when this comes out, and it's going to be weekly, thank God, because Netflix and that dropping everything at the same time, or dropping a batch and then a batch here, I thought that was terrible, especially with keeping the interest and the hype. But with it being weekly and people are going to follow it going into the spring, I think it's going to be a really good time to be watching JoJo. Another one in its final season is Golden Kamuy. This is something I started watching around halfway through season 1, and I stopped because I kind of wanted to just kind of binge all of it at some point, whether through the anime or the manga, because some of the anime I wasn't exactly feeling for some reason. So eventually I'm probably going to start through the manga and then kind of work my way through both mediums, just to kind of get through the whole series. And one I do plan on watching just because it looks like really interesting. It's the Darwin incident. I believe this is taking place where the main character gets like a disease and his appearance gets deformed. He turns into basically a monkey, and I think the older diseases are that they turn other people into like animalistic type humans or body types. So this seems like it's going to be a really psychological and emotional based anime, and something like this is kind of always grabbing my attention because you rarely get stories like this, and it's interesting to see what type of themes they're going to tackle in it. And we might as well start off with the first anime that really dropped for the season, and probably going to be the biggest. I don't know if I'm going to say the best. I'm going to just kind of throw my bias out the window, but that's going to be JJK Jujutsu Kaisen season 3. And season 3 has already kicked off to where like I'm impressed with what they've done, and to taking these 3 episodes and making them, I would say, stronger than the first 2 of season 2. And season 2 surpassed season 1 in terms of animation, OST, direction, presentation. I feel like season 2 actually makes season 1 look old. That's how good season 2 was. And then even with some of the time issues and some of the scheduling issues, it sucked to see, especially with the Sakuna Mahoraga stuff. But with season 3, I think they had a little bit more time. Not really sure, but they had around 2 or 3 years to do this. It feels like they've taken this adaptation, just every time I see an episode, they take it to another level when it comes to adding stuff or just taking Gege's idea in his direction. And who knows, maybe Gege's actually like kind of helping on the team and showing like, okay, I really want it to be displayed or portrayed in this fashion. But they've taken everything and it feels like they just elevated to another level, which most anime, that's like the goal, that's the point, but rarely to this degree. And it's not like a Demon Slayer thing where like the art is so bad or the art is like really average or anything like that. The art is good in JJK, the story's obviously good, but I've never seen an anime take something good or great that we've kind of unanimously agreed on and just made it something that we're going to remember forever. I mean, the single fact that in episode 1 they already had like a trending moment of now you're beating on Choso and like he's flicking his hair back and he's still beating him because of the projection sorcery speed that he has, which that part is not in the manga. That just add stuff. And the fact that I've seen so many animations and artists like redo it with different characters, whether it's like their own created characters or like other anime characters. I think the best one is probably the one where Light is writing out the Death Note names and you just see L taking damage or whatever. But that also shows the most of the JJK. Like then episode 2 with the fight with Nagi and Choso, which was good. In my opinion, it was good. I've seen some like mixed reactions from people who read the manga because it kind of was like too much going on at the same time. But I think that was kind of what the direction they wanted to go, because they wanted to show projection sorcery as well as Choso's like blood and all the blood that's kind of flowing out that he can produce. But I thought it came across pretty well. It is also funny seeing people kind of like not overrate Naoya, but like their reaction to him in terms of obviously his character. Like the dude is king misogyny. Like he comes out and like the very few things he says in the, like his introduction is something where you're just kind of like, oh, he's an instant dickhead. So I do like his character just because of that. I don't love it, but it's just funny seeing it. And then of course people love speedsters. It's just funny seeing the stuff with him. And I have loved the Yuji and Yuta fight. I thought that was pretty good. I kind of forgot how fast that fight is in reality, because it really isn't that long of a fight, especially with 2 MCs. And I love the shot of how like they're showing how much Yuta has with the curse energy in comparison to Yuji, showing that Yuta's curse energy is just almost bottomless with the amount that he has. Then of course episode 3, that was probably the most engaging info dump episode I've ever watched for an anime. And I watched Hunter x Hunter, and my only gripe with Hunter x Hunter was the fact that a lot of the info dumps, like the explanations, are very uninteresting when it comes to like getting through them. But like the basis of what it is interesting, but how they do it is not. JJK gladly did not go in that direction. The way that they show the graphs and like how they go through rule after rule after rule, showing different colors to just make sure your eyes are looking at the screen, catching up all the information. Really good stuff. So if I had to rate it, JJK is moving at like a 10 out of 10 right now with season 3, and I cannot wait for the next episode. Episode 4 is going to be like the first really big episode for the season going for the rest of the year. I'm really interested to see how people react to it. I think it's going to be really hype and fun to see what's going to happen. Plus, I can't wait to see my guy Hikari. The GOAT has got to show himself, and I can't wait. And then what is probably my second or third favorite this season is Fire Force season 3 part 2. And Fire Force is kind of climaxing right now. It's the final season. I think it's either the final season or like the part before the final season. I don't know how the hell they're gonna like finish it out, but we only got 2 episodes. So first episode was pretty decent. It was a doppelganger episode, so it was really more so about lore information. Not the most engaging episode, of course, although it was cool seeing doppelganger Shinra animated and kind of foreshadowing that there will be others going forward with this arc. And they actually do the doppelganger stuff really well when it comes to like cloning and having evil versions or like bad versions of characters. So that's something I give Okubo for this arc. And David Productions is one of the most underrated studios in my opinion. They don't really get a ton of love because they don't really animate a lot of popular stuff. Their main IPs are JoJo and Fire Force. After that, it gets kind of bleak. The adaptation and the amount of stuff that they've adapted has been really impressive, especially episode 2. Episode 2 is going to be my favorite of this part until we get to some other stuff. But I love the Benimaru and Hibachi story, and the master student, the passing of the torch, and just how great their job is in the Asakusa, because Hibachi did kill people, and stopping the infernals and doing all of that. So that obviously is a theme that's kind of touched on, where I love that they keep what Benimaru and them do exclusively with Asakusa. Like they're heroes, but from other people's perspectives, they're looked at as like murderers. Like you killed my mom, you killed my dad. Like how am I supposed to cheer and praise you? So that whole concept is like really interesting, and I'm glad that they did that really well. But when regards to the fight was beautiful, because they went the route of literally just going 1-to-1 with the manga. And I know some people are kind of like, well, duh, that's kind of the point. But a lot of times, when they go through fights, they kind of just adapt it into what's more convenient and also something that's more practical. And with this one, they just went straight with how the manga is and just made everything look really sharp. Especially when they get to like the waves and they're fighting above the sea, and you can see how this drawn in like I don't know how it's pronounced. I think it's like ukiyo when it comes to the art style, where you see like, have you ever seen that famous Japanese painting where it kind of has the sun and it's like a wave that's coming up from it? It looks like they took that art style and just kind of put it into the anime, and they did that a couple of times. But some of the shots are like Benimaru and Hibachi, and it made them look larger than life. Like these dudes are like almost like a god tier of fire soldier, and Hibachi wants him to find his own nature and to find the meaning of his own purpose and all of that. Really dope stuff. Like Okubo takes like we'll just say very thematical and normally overly epic and like maybe overly emotional concepts, and he just makes some cool shit. Like that's just what he does. does best. Sentenced to Be a Hero had one of the most impactful episode ones I've seen in a while because they made it an hour-long episode. In an hour-long episode, you could tell it was basically 3 episodes kind of put together. But consider what the first episode is, I am not mad they did that because the main character Xylo is brought into the world and he is forced to be a hero, which is already like kind of caught my attention because forced to be a hero is interesting. But if you do any type of crime in the real world, you're sentenced to this world where you have to be a hero. And most heroes are not well liked, we'll say. Heroes are almost like a race basically at this point. You get the vibe real quick that Xylo, something happened to him to where he's like he is now, because he's a stoic, I don't want to say edgy, but he's very much like he's a hard-nosed character. Like, he's been through something, something's off with him, but he's got that cool factor to him. So a lot of people, that's gonna make people want to watch it anyway. Same thing for me, cool character design, I want to know about his backstory, I'm already locked in. So he's sentenced to this world, and the way everything kind of happens is like, it's not really anything different once they get into the world. It's just how well paced, how well directed, how well animated this is, because the animation is, I would say, arguably, I would put it in the top 2. It's really hard to choose because the top 3 is kind of solidified, but it's Sentenced to Be a Hero keeps this level of animation up, especially for our first season. It's going to be up there one of the most impressive first seasons of all time. And later in episode 1, you do find out that he was, well, we don't have the whole story, but we do find out that the princess that he was previously watching after, she ended up dying, and he took the blame for it, he took the fall for it, and it's pretty much been messing with him the whole time. But now he has to watch over this other princess in this world named Tia Rita. Now, this character, I'm probably not going to like too much just because every time she talks to this man, she keeps calling him my knight. And I kid you not, literally before every sentence before she talks to him, she calls him my knight, and it is just very annoying at some points, especially when she talks a lot. And that's really my only gripe with the show so far. But we have already been introducing some of the other heroes, and some of them kind of catch my eye because I was interested in more so the character designs before I learned about them. But Venetum, he seems to be interesting. I think he's going to play a big part in this show. He just kind of gives off the vibe that he's going to be like the right-hand man, I guess, to Xylo in terms of strength. Norgil, I'm like, he feels like, I hate calling him Escanor because he reminds me of him for some reason for so much, but I guess he has this delusion that he has followers and he's like a king or whatever, so I'm kind of interested to see where that goes. And I already love Tatsuya. Tatsuya is just, I guess he's like a mindless, soldier. He just, kills people and does a bunch of crazy shit. I love the types of characters. But what interests me about him is that he's actually the oldest one there. I guess he's been through these sentences the most, but we don't know why he's been sentenced so many times. So definitely check this one out. I think it's going to be one of the most interesting animes, and I'm curious to see how the plot goes. Let's just hope it doesn't turn into some weird shit, and we should be good. Hell's Paradise Season 2. Now, unfortunately, Hell's Paradise did get the wrong end of the stick when it came to the teams that Mappa put together, because they got a Team A, Team B, Team C. When you got a big animation studio, you got different teams working on different stuff. With Chainsaw Man and JJK both being worked on, I think exactly at the same time. By the time JJK Season 2 was coming out, they were working on Chainsaw Man Season 1. And in like the middle of that, they had a team working on Hell's Paradise. This is really when peak Mappa just, we'll just say, like, overworking their workers, and the animators was just in peak form right now. So Hell's Paradise did not get the, we'll just say, the love that the other two got, because they didn't, get the spontaneous, the crazy looking animation. It was very grounded, but like, it was not bad at all. If anything, it was still relatively better than a lot of other stuff that did come out that year. But with this season, we only got about 2 episodes out right now. And if you are a fan of Chobayaza and eventually Shugen, when he gets fully introduced into the season, you're going to really love these characters, because Shugen introduces a third party effect into the story when it comes to the antagonist and the protagonist, and that he adds like a secondary antagonist technically to the story. It makes everything just way more interesting than it had any right to be. And then with Chobe is, to me, the best character in the show. I mean, there's a lot of great characters. Like, the main cast is like what really draws you into the actual world. But Chobe specifically, the fight with Gabimaru, I love how much they made them look like feral beasts when they fight. And it's not the only time we're going to see him like that. Like, Chobe is going to, if I'm right, he's going to dominate a lot of the screen time compared to everybody, especially with like all of the crazy shit he's going to do. So if you're interested in like grounded animation, I would say, like, for me, this is coming kind of in the same realm as almost like a Samurai Champloo-esque kinda, but like obviously with monsters in terms of like the way the sword fights are, some of the brawls. It's kind of up in that realm if I had to guess. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. The next one on the list is Fate Strange Fake. Now, if you ever actually kept up with Fate Strange Fake, it's actually been other episodes that have come out within the last 2 years, because there was an episode that came out, it was about an hour long, that came out late 2024, didn't get another episode until 2025. And then now we're finally getting the actual season going into 2026, and they've already dropped 2 episodes. Great thing about it is I think they did all of the dub with all this time they had off. Thank God, because like I was hoping it wasn't gonna be a case of them dropping like another episode and then waiting another year for it. So luckily we don't have that. If you've ever watched any type of Fate, whether it be Fate Unlimited Blade Works, Fate Zero, you pretty much know what most of these stories are. You got servants and then you got the masters. And it's always fun seeing which ones are which, like who's going to be the servant, which one is Saber, which one is Caster, Berserker. Obviously Gilgamesh is the easiest one to spot. As a matter of fact, he's the first major one that we find out, and he's Gilgamesh. I mean, he's a really fun character to follow. Still kind of a dickhead, even when he is like the good guy, kind of. He still just has that arrogance about him that it really is indistinguishable from all the other servants. And this one is more modern because you have a couple like cities, and it looks like a mix of modern Japan or I don't know, Tokyo or something like that. But it also has, you know, some kingdoms, because when you go outside of the city, it's also very fantasy based. And there seems to be not only one, but possibly 2 wars that are commencing. Looks like between the US and then something between the servants. The story is really still trying to, you know, flesh itself out from the last 2 episodes recently. But if you're looking for amazing animation, this is another one that you could definitely watch and follow. It's relatively easy to follow along with, and characters that are pretty likable when you first meet them. And this is second behind JJK when it comes to fights already, because the fights in this is fantastic. The last episode, the fight with Hansa and Jester it's comical, but it's also like destructive, and you're not really sure like what their abilities are. Hansa, you have a good idea, but Jester, it's just kind of like you don't exactly know what he's doing when it comes to his magic, because when he's introduced, he just starts taking limbs off. So it's like it's no animation to show like what exactly it is, but I'm assuming it has something to do with like, I don't know, I kind of hope it was something to do with luck, but I don't think that's gonna be the case. And it has a great dub on top of it, so please go ahead and check this one out. And the last one is Trigun Stargaze, because if you is picking up after Trigun Stampede, which you haven't watched that's also a must watch. Also for Studio Orange, which is my first Studio Orange anime back when Stampede came out. It has by far the best CGI for an anime. If you're interested in kind of giving it a shot, I know 3D CG isn't exactly like something most people are interested in watching, but with this studio specifically, they do a great job at it. If you haven't known, I believe they did Beastars, and they also did Land of the Lustrous, which I haven't watched, but I've seen a couple clips. Even that looked pretty good. So if you want to check it out, definitely do so. If you ever followed Trigun, I haven't. I gotta read the actual manga at some point. Because I believe there's like a couple different stories with this, but with Stampede, it was great watching it, especially if you want to follow along with Vash, Knives, and the whole brother storyline with those two, and eventually how Knives, you know, becomes a villain, and you know how all of that shapes up. I also like some of the world building it has with like the Western setting, but with futuristic technology and even some of the bounties that they have out there. So it's a really cool vibe. And with Stargaze, it takes place about 2.5 years after everything that happened, and Vash is not technically Vash right now. He's gunslinger that we know. He's pretty much retired, I would say, but he can still do his thing, and he's depressed. He's kind of down to the dumps on everything that's happened, and even going under a different name. So I would highly recommend first checking out Trigun Stampede, and then going into Trigun Stargaze. I think that one's gonna be pretty good too. Only about 12 episodes, so it's an easy watch if you're really interested. That's all for the video. Like I said, I think this is probably gonna be the best season of anime I've ever watched when it comes to just the abundance of good stuff, good animation, good storytelling, everything that comes with it. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. I'll holler at y'all in the next one. Peace.